Captain Lee Jun stared at the scanner display and rubbed his tired eyes. The numbers had not changed in the last 10 minutes, but he kept looking anyway because what they showed seemed impossible. His ship, New Sol, was 3 days out from Earth, on a routine survey mission to check the asteroid fields near Proxima Station when the readings first appeared. Captain called pilot Nayun from her station. The object is still there, and it is definitely not natural. Lee Jun walked over to where Dr. Park Hana was studying the sensor data. The chief scientist looked up at him with wide eyes that showed both excitement and fear. "It is artificial," she said quietly. "And it is big, Captain. Much bigger than our ship." Commander Kim Tae stepped forward from his security station. His hand rested on his weapon as he spoke. "Captain, I recommend we change course immediately. We do not know what that thing is or who made it." Lee Jun studied his crew. They were good people, and he trusted them completely. Nayun was young, but the best pilot he had ever seen. Park Hana was brilliant and always careful with her research. Kim Tae was cautious but brave when needed. They had worked together for 3 years and never faced anything like this. "How far away is it?" Lee Jun asked. "About 50,000 kilometers. Nayun replied. "It appeared on sensors 20 minutes ago, but it might have been there longer." "Is it moving?" "No, Captain, it seems to be just sitting there." Lee Jun thought about their options. They could run back to Earth and report what they found. That would be the safe choice, but this might be humanity's first contact with alien life. If they ran away without learning anything, they might miss the most important moment in human history. Hana. "What do your scans show, Dr. Park?" Hana looked at her instruments again. "The object is made of materials I do not recognize. It has some kind of energy signature, but it is not hostile." "Actually, Captain, it almost looks like they are trying to communicate." "Communicate how?" "Mathematical patterns and radio waves. Very simple at first, but getting more complex. Look at this." She showed him the display. Numbers flashed in sequences that started with basic arithmetic and moved to more complicated equations. Someone or something was trying to teach them a language. "This is incredible," Park Hana whispered. "They are showing us prime numbers now and geometric relationships." Kim Tae frowned. "Captain, this could be a trap. We should report back to Earth and let the military handle this." "The military would probably shoot first and ask questions later," Lee Jun said, "and we might never get another chance like this." He made his decision. "Nayun, take us closer but keep our distance. If that ship makes any threatening moves, get us out of here fast." "Yes, Captain." As they moved closer, the alien ship became visible on their screens. It was unlike anything humans had ever built. The hull seemed to be made of some kind of crystal that shifted colors as they watched. It was roughly triangular but with curved edges that flowed like water. Strange symbols glowed along its surface. "Captain Park," Hana said with excitement in her voice. "They are responding to our position changes. When we moved left, they adjusted their radio signals. I think they know we are here." "Are we in any danger?" "I do not detect weapons, but Captain, their technology is clearly more advanced than ours." The radio signals suddenly changed to a new pattern. This time the mathematical sequences were followed by simple images. A circle, a triangle, then more complex shapes. Then something that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. The image showed 2 figures. One looked roughly human. The other was tall and thin with multiple arms and what appeared to be a crystalline head. "They know what we look like," Kim Tae said. Grimly, "They have been watching us." "Not necessarily," Park Hana said quickly. "This might just be their way of asking what we are." Lee Jun studied the display. "Send back our own mathematical sequences. Let them know we understand." For the next hour, they exchanged increasingly complex communications. The aliens seemed patient and willing to teach. They showed images of their solar system and what appeared to be their home planet. The humans responded with information about Earth and basic facts about humanity. "Captain, I am getting new signals." Nayun reported, "Something is happening to their ship." The crystalline hull of the alien vessel began to change shape. Parts of it extended outward, forming what looked like docking ports. Lights appeared in patterns that seemed welcoming rather than threatening. I think they want to meet face to face. Park Hana said. Kim Tai stepped closer to the captain. Sir, this is extremely dangerous. We know nothing about these beings except that they have better technology than us. They could be hostile. They have had plenty of chances to attack us if that was their intention. Li Jun replied. And they seem to be trying very hard to communicate. Peacefully. Captain, what if they carry diseases or their atmosphere is poisonous to us? We will take precautions. Full environmental suits and limited contact. Park Hana was studying her instruments again. Captain, I am detecting movement inside their ship. It looks like a small craft is separating from the main vessel. On their screens, they watched as a smaller version of the crystal ship detached and began moving toward them. It was beautiful in a way that human ships never were, with surfaces that seemed alive with shifting light. Should I prepare our shuttle? Nayun asked. No, we will let them come to us. Kim Tae, prepare the docking bay for visitors. Full security. Protocols but no weapons visible. We want to seem welcoming but not weak. Yes, Captain. As the alien craft approached their ship, Li Jun wondered if he was making the right choice. This moment would change everything for humanity one way or another. He thought about his family back on Earth and hoped he would live to see them again. The alien shuttle was small enough to fit inside their cargo bay. As it landed, the New Soul's crew watched through monitors and cameras. The craft's surface rippled, like water, then became solid again. A section of the hull simply dissolved away, creating an opening. 3 figures emerged and Li Jun felt his breath catch. The aliens were tall, nearly 3 meters high, with long, thin bodies that seemed to be made of the same crystal material as their ships. They moved gracefully on 4 legs and had 2 pairs of arms. Their heads were elongated with what appeared to be large eyes that glowed with soft light. They are wearing some kind of environmental suits, Park Hana observed, so they have the same concerns about meeting us that we have about meeting them. The aliens moved slowly and deliberately, showing no signs of aggression. One of them held what appeared to be a device similar to their communication equipment. Captain, came a voice from the communication system. They are transmitting directly to our computer systems. Words appeared on their screens in perfect English. Greetings, humans of the vessel New Soul. We are explorers from the species you may call Vorac. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. Li Jun looked at his crew, then activated the communication system. Greetings, Vorac explorers. I am Captain Li Jun of the human ship New Soul. We welcome you in peace and friendship. We are honored by your welcome, Captain Li Jun. We have traveled far to meet your species. Your people are young but show great promise. How did you learn our language? We have been observing your radio transmissions for several of your years. We wanted to understand before making contact. Kim Tae whispered urgently to the captain. They have been spying on us, Li. Jun nodded but kept his voice calm. We understand. We would probably do the same thing. The lead Vorac seemed to nod, though the gesture looked strange coming from such an alien form. We request permission to meet with you directly. Captain Li Jun. We have much to learn from each other. Li Jun made his second crucial decision of the day. Permission granted. We will meet in our conference room. As they prepared for the first face-to-face meeting between humans and aliens, Li Jun could not shake the feeling that this day would be remembered forever. He just hoped it would be remembered for the right reasons. The Vorac moved through the ship with fluid grace that was beautiful and slightly unsettling to watch. In the conference room, they arranged themselves around the table in a way that suggested they understood human customs. We bring greetings from our homeworld and our people, the lead Vorac said through their translation device. This is a historic moment for both our species. Dr. Park Hana leaned forward with scientific curiosity, overcoming her caution. How many worlds do your people inhabit? Many worlds across many systems. We are an old species, Captain Li Jun. We have seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. And what do you think of humanity? Li Jun asked. The alien's glowing eyes seemed to brighten. Your species is remarkable, so young yet so full of potential, especially your young ones. We find human children to be absolutely fascinating. Something in the way the Vorthak said those words made Kim Tae tense, but Lee Jun saw it as natural curiosity. The meeting continued for 2 more hours, covering topics from technology to culture to the possibility of trade between their species. The Vorthak seemed genuinely interested in learning about humanity, and offered to share some of their knowledge in return. As the aliens prepared to return to their ship, the lead Vorthak made one final statement. Captain Lee Jun, we would be honored to visit your homeworld and meet more of your people. Especially, we would like to study how human children develop. Their minds are so pure and adaptable. After the Vorthak left, Lee Jun sat in his captain's chair feeling the way. 3 months after first contact with the Vorthak, the news had spread across all human colonies and Earth itself. The discovery that humanity was not alone changed everything from politics to religion to science. Ambassador Cho Bin had been chosen as Earth's first alien diplomat, and he stood now in the main hall of New Geneva Colony, waiting for the Vorthak delegation to arrive. New Geneva was humanity's newest settlement built on a planet with perfect conditions for human life. The colony had been established only 5 years earlier and was home to about 10,000 people, including many families with children. It seemed like the perfect place for the Vorthak to learn about human society. Ambassador, the Vorthak ship has entered our atmosphere, reported the colony's communication officer. Cho Bin nodded and adjusted his formal diplomatic robes. Beside him stood Dr. Xin Wu, a child psychologist who had been brought from Earth specifically to help with alien-human interactions involving children. The Vorthak had expressed particular interest in meeting human young people and studying how they learned and developed. Dr. Xin Wu, are the families ready? Yes, Ambassador. We have 12 families who volunteered to participate in the cultural exchange program. All of them have children between the ages of 5 and 10. Among those families were the Parks, whose 8-year-old daughter, Jin A, was excited to meet aliens, and the Ko family, with their 6-year-old son Dan, who had been asking questions about the visitors for weeks. The Vorthak ship was much larger than the one that had first made contact with Captain Lee Jun. This vessel was designed for extended stays and cultural research. It settled onto the landing pad with the same liquid grace that characterized all Vorthak technology. The delegation that emerged was led by someone who called himself Research Prime Vextai. Like all Vorthak, he was tall and crystalline, but his surface showed more complex patterns of light that seemed to indicate higher status. With him came 6 other Vorthak, each carrying devices that appeared to be recording and analyzing everything around them. Welcome to New Geneva Colony, Research Prime Vextai, Ambassador Cho Bin said with a formal bow. We are honored by your visit. The honor is ours, Ambassador Cho Bin. Vextai replied through his translation device. We have traveled far to learn about your fascinating species. The Vorthak moved through the colony with obvious interest in everything they saw. They asked detailed questions about human architecture, agriculture, and social organization. But their greatest interest was clearly in the humans themselves, especially the children. Your young ones are remarkable, Vextai observed as they watched a group of children playing in the colony's central park. Their minds are so flexible and creative, nothing like the rigid thinking patterns we see in adult humans. Dr. Xin Wu smiled proudly. Children are naturally curious and adaptable. They learn faster than adults and see possibilities that grown-ups often miss. Indeed, this is what makes them so valuable for research purposes. Something in the way Vextai said the word valuable made Dr. Xin Wu slightly uncomfortable, but he assumed it was a translation issue. The formal introduction ceremony took place that afternoon. The 12 volunteer families gathered in the community center with their children dressed in their best clothes. Jin Ai clutched her mother's hand as she stared up at the tall alien figures, while little Ko Dan hid behind his father until curiosity overcame his shyness. Children of humanity. Vextai addressed them directly. We have come from far across the stars to meet you. You are the future of your species, and we wish to learn from your young wisdom. The Vorthak had brought gifts, small crystalline devices that created beautiful light patterns and musical sounds when touched. The children were delighted, and soon lost their fear as they played with the alien toys. Jin A approached one of the Vorac scientists with the boldness that only children possess. "Do you have kids on your planet?" The Vorthak's glowing eyes focused on her with startling intensity. "We do not reproduce as your species does, young Jin A. We find your method of creating new life to be quite fascinating. How do you know my name?" "We have been studying your colony's records to better understand your people." Dr. Xin Wu found the conversation interesting from a scientific perspective, but noticed that the Vorthak seemed to be paying extremely close attention to how each child behaved and responded. They were taking detailed scans of the children with their devices and asking very specific questions about human development. Over the following days, the Vorthak integrated themselves into colony life with what seemed like genuine enthusiasm. They attended school classes and observed how human children learned. They visited families in their homes and asked endless questions about child-rearing practices and family structures. The way young humans absorb information is truly remarkable. Vexte told Ambassador Chobin during one of their daily briefings. Their neuroplasticity far exceeds anything we have encountered in other species. "Other species?" Chobin asked with interest. "How many different intelligent life forms have you met?" "Many, Ambassador, many indeed. Some quite similar to humans in various ways, though none quite so interesting as your children." The Vorthak requested permission to establish a small research facility on the edge of the colony. They claimed it would help them better understand human development and could lead to beneficial exchanges of knowledge and technology. "What exactly would you be studying?" Dr. Xin Wu asked. "The learning patterns of young humans, how they process information and adapt to new situations. We believe our research could help your species develop even more effective educational methods." The proposal was presented to the Colonial Council, and after much debate it was approved. The Vorthak had shown nothing but peaceful intentions, and their technology could greatly benefit the colony. The research facility would be built quickly using Vorthak construction methods. Jin A and Kodan were among the first children selected to participate in the research program. Their parents were proud that their children had been chosen, and the kids themselves were excited to spend time with the fascinating aliens. The Vorthak facility grew from nothing to a gleaming crystal structure in just 3 days. It was beautiful, but also somehow unsettling with its flowing surfaces and chambers that seemed to change shape when no one was looking directly at them. "The building looks alive," Jinne whispered to Kodan as they approached for their first research session. "Maybe. All alien buildings are like that," Kodan replied, though he stayed close to his older friend. Inside the facility, the Vorthak had created comfortable spaces designed to put human children at ease. There were games and toys and learning activities that seemed designed to test different types of intelligence and creativity. Dr. Xin Wu observed the first few sessions and was impressed by the Vorthak's careful approach. The children enjoyed the activities and showed no signs of distress. The aliens were patient and encouraging with each young participant. They seemed to genuinely care about the children's well-being. He reported to Ambassador Chobin, "I see no cause for concern." But Dr. Xin Wu was not present for the evening sessions. When the Vorthak conducted what they called deep neural pattern analysis. During these sessions, the children were connected to scanning devices that the Vorthak claimed were studying brainwave patterns during different types of mental activity. Jin A felt strange during her first evening session, but the Vorthak assured her it was normal. The scanning device felt cold against her forehead and she heard odd humming sounds, but the alien researcher Kevlon told her she was helping with very important scientific work. "You have a beautiful mind, young Jin A," Kevlon said, as he adjusted the scanning equipment, so full of potential and creative energy. After 2 weeks of research sessions, more children had been added to the program. The Vorthak seemed particularly interested in the youngest participants and spent extra time scanning children between the ages of 5 and 8. Some parents began to notice changes in their children's behavior. The kids seemed more tired after their sessions and complained of headaches. Jin A's mother mentioned this to Dr. Xin Wu, who promised to look into it. "The children are probably just overstimulated," he assured the concerned parents. Meeting aliens and participating in their research is a lot of excitement for young minds to process. But when Dr. Xin Wu tried to access the research facility that evening, he found it was sealed. The Vorac explained that they were conducting sensitive work that required controlled conditions. We cannot risk contaminating our data with outside influences. Vextai explained. Surely you understand the need for scientific rigor. That night, something happened that would change everything for the colony and for humanity as a whole. Jin-A went to bed at her normal time after reading a story with her mother. Kodan fell asleep in his room clutching a toy spaceship he had built from colony materials. Both children were tired from their day at the Vorac research facility, but neither showed any unusual signs. When their parents checked on them in the morning, both children were gone. Their beds were empty and their bedroom windows were open, though there were no signs of forced entry. Jin-A's favorite stuffed animal lay on her pillow, and Kodan's toy spaceship sat on his nightstand exactly where he had left it. Within minutes, the entire colony was in panic. Search teams spread out across New Geneva looking for any trace of the missing children. Parents held their own kids closer and demanded answers from the colonial authorities. Captain Li Jun arrived at New Geneva Colony 12 hours after receiving the emergency message about the missing children. His ship, New Seoul, landed near the Vorac research facility, and he could immediately sense the tension in the air. Groups of angry parents stood outside the alien building demanding answers, while colonial security forces tried to maintain order. Colonel Bei Su, commander of the Colonial Defense Force, met Li Jun at the landing pad. The colonel was a stern woman, with gray hair and hard eyes, who had spent her career protecting human settlements from various dangers, but never anything like this. Captain, the situation is bad and getting worse, she reported. 5 children missing with no trace and parents, ready to storm the alien facility. What does Ambassador Cho Bin say? He is still trying to handle this diplomatically, but the colonists are losing patience fast. Li Jun looked toward the Vorac building with its shifting crystal surfaces and felt something cold in his stomach. During first contact, the aliens had seemed so interested in human children. At the time, it had appeared to be scientific curiosity, but now that interest felt sinister. I want to talk to the families first, Li Jun said, then we will deal with. The Vorac. Jin-A's parents were among the most distraught. Her mother had not stopped crying since discovering her daughter's empty bed, and her father paced like a caged animal, desperate to take action. Captain, they took our baby girl. Jin-A's mother sobbed. She was so excited about helping with their research, and now she is gone. Kodan's father was equally anguished. My son is only 6 years old. What could these aliens want with little children? Li Jun had no answers that would comfort them, but he promised to find the truth. He brought with him tech specialist Yu Min, one of the best computer experts in the human fleet. If there were answers to be found in the Vorac systems, Yu Min would find them. Dr. Park Hana and Commander Kim Tae had also returned with the New Seoul. Park Hana wanted to study the alien research methods, while Kim Tae was ready for a fight if necessary. Captain, I never trusted these creatures. Kim Tae said bluntly. Something about them felt wrong from the beginning. We need evidence before we act. Li Jun replied, but I want you ready for anything. Ambassador Cho Bin met them at the Colonial Administration building looking exhausted and stressed. The diplomat had built his career on careful negotiation, but the disappearance of children was testing his commitment to peaceful solutions. Captain, I have requested a meeting with Research Prime Vextai, but he claims to be conducting sensitive experiments that cannot be interrupted. Then we interrupt them anyway, Li Jun said firmly. That could cause a diplomatic incident. 5 missing children is already an incident, Ambassador. While they argued about proper diplomatic protocol, Yu Min had quietly made her way to the colony's communication center. The Vorac facility was connected to the colonial computer network for data sharing and translation services. If she could hack into their systems, she might learn what had really happened to the children. The Vorac security was sophisticated, but Yu Min had been breaking into computer systems since she was a teenager. It took her 3 hours to find a way past their defenses and access their internal files. What she discovered made her sick to her stomach. The files were filled with detailed scans of human brain tissue, specifically the neural patterns of developing minds. There were medical diagrams showing how to extract living brain matter without killing the subject. Most horrifying were the video records of the missing children. Janae was strapped to a table with tubes and wires connected to her head. Her eyes were open but vacant, and machines surrounded her displaying readouts of her brain activity. Ko-Dan was in a similar condition in an adjoining room, along with the 3 other missing children. But the videos showed worse things. The Vorac were not just studying the children's minds, they were harvesting parts of their brains to power their technology. The aliens used living neural tissue as biological computers, taking advantage of the adaptability and creativity of young human minds in one file. Yu-Min found a communication between Vextai and others of his species. The human juveniles are even more suitable than we hoped, the message read. Their neural plasticity exceeds all previous subjects. We should be able to extract enough material from each one to power an entire ship's computational matrix. Another message was even more chilling. Ensure the subjects remain conscious during extraction. Living neural tissue is far more valuable than dead matter. Yu-Min copied everything she could find, then ran to find Captain Lee Jun. She found him still arguing with Ambassador Cho-Bin about diplomatic protocols. "Captain, you need to see this now," she said urgently. In a private room she showed him the files and video records. Lee Jun watched in growing horror as the evidence mounted. The Vorac were not researchers, they were monsters who treated human children like resources to be harvested. "How long do the children have?" he asked grimly. "Based on their timeline, they started the extraction process yesterday. The children are still alive, but Captain, if we do not get them out soon, there will be nothing left to save." Lee Jun called together Colonel Bae-Soo, Commander Kim Tae, and Dr. Park Hana. When he showed them the evidence, the room fell silent with rage. "We go in now," Kim Tae said flatly. "No negotiation, no diplomacy, we get those kids out." "Agreed," said Colonel Bae-Soo. "I have 20 armed security personnel ready to move, but when they approached the Vorac facility, they discovered it was protected by energy shields that their weapons could not penetrate. The building had transformed from a research center into a fortress. Research Prime Vextai appeared on their communication system, looking as calm as ever. "Captain Lee Jun, I understand you are concerned about the missing juveniles, but I assure you they are safe and contributing to important scientific work." "You are torturing children," Lee Jun accused. "We have seen your files. Torture is a very emotional human concept. We are simply utilizing their neural resources for the advancement of knowledge. Let them go now or we will take them." "I think not, Captain. Your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses and we have much work yet to complete." The communication ended, and the Vorac facility sealed itself completely. No more signals could get in or out, and their energy shields grew stronger. Lee Jun assembled an assault team led by Kim Tae, but their first attack failed completely. The Vorac defensive systems were too advanced, and any direct assault would likely get the rescue team killed without saving the children. While they planned alternative approaches, Jin A's condition was getting worse. The neural extraction process was slowly destroying her mind while keeping her body alive. Ko-Dan was in the early stages of the same procedure. Inside the facility, Vextai monitored the humans' attempts to break in with mild amusement. His species had harvested neural material from hundreds of different intelligent races across the galaxy. The humans were reacting exactly as expected, with emotional responses that clouded their judgment. Research Assistant Kevlon, how much longer? Until we have extracted sufficient material from the first subject. Approximately 6 more hours. Research Prime Vextai. The young female's neural patterns are exceptional. Her creativity centers are producing more usable material than any previous subject. Excellent. Prepare the secondary subjects for processing. We can begin extraction on the young male within the day. But Vextai had made a crucial mistake. He assumed human emotions made them weaker when in fact the opposite was true. The rage and desperation felt by every adult in New Geneva colony was not a weakness. It was fuel for determination that no logical species could understand or predict. Colonel Bae-Soo contacted Earth and requested immediate military support. Every parent in the colony volunteered to join the assault team regardless of their lack of combat training. Captain Lee Jun found himself commanding not just his crew, but an entire population united by fury at what had been done to their children. Dr. Park Hana studied the energy shield technology and found a potential weakness. If they could overload the power source, the defenses might fail long enough for a rescue team to get inside. It will be extremely dangerous, she warned, and we will only have minutes before the shields come back online. Then we better move fast. Li Jun replied. As they prepared for their desperate assault attempt, Kodan's neural extraction began. The 6-year-old boy who had built toy spaceships and dreamed of flying to the stars was slowly having his mind destroyed by beings who saw him as nothing more than raw material in his last moments of clear consciousness. Kodan whispered for his parents, but only the Vorac heard him. The rescue attempt began at dawn. Using modified mining equipment from the colony, they managed to create a feedback pulse that overloaded the facility's power grid. For exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds, the energy shields failed. Kim Tae led 12 security personnel through the breach, while Li Jun and Dr. Park Hana followed with medical equipment. What they found inside the Vorac facility would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The children were connected to machines that pulsed with organic light. Tubes filled with neural fluid ran between their heads and crystalline computers that incorporated living brain tissue into their processing. Systems Jin'e was still conscious but could barely recognize the rescue team. Most of her MUAMI. The news from New Geneva Colony reached Earth 18 hours after the failed rescue attempt. Captain Li Jun's report was broadcast simultaneously to every human government and military command center across all colonies and space stations. The reaction was immediate. And unlike anything in human history, on Earth, the United Nations Security Council held an emergency session that lasted only 20 minutes. For the first time since the organization's founding, every member nation voted, unanimously, on a resolution. All territorial disputes, trade wars, and political differences were suspended indefinitely. Humanity had only one priority now. Admiral Park Sung was appointed Supreme Commander of the newly formed Earth Defense Force. A career military officer who had spent 30 years protecting human shipping lanes from pirates and raiders, she now faced an enemy unlike any in human experience. Ladies and gentlemen, she addressed the Joint Military Council. We are at war with an enemy that sees our children as raw materials to be harvested. This is not a conflict about territory or resources, or ideology. This is about the survival of everything we hold dear. The response was overwhelming. Every human colony contributed ships, weapons, and personnel to the war effort. The Mars shipyards that had been building cargo vessels and mining equipment immediately switched to producing warships. The asteroid mining platforms began extracting materials specifically for military use. Dr. Oh Yeon led the weapons research program at the military science facility on Luna Station. She had been working on theoretical weapons designs that seemed too destructive for practical use, but the Vorac threat changed all calculations. We need weapons that can penetrate their energy shields, she told her research team, and we need them fast. The breakthrough came from studying the facility at New Geneva Colony. The Vorac technology was based on crystalline matrices that could be disrupted by specific harmonic frequencies. Dr. Oh Yeon developed weapons that used resonance patterns to shatter Vorac hulls and overload their power systems. Meanwhile, Captain Lim Ho supervised construction of humanity's first true warship at the orbital shipyards above Earth. The vessel was named Incheon after the Korean city where Admiral Park Sung had been born. It was designed specifically to fight the Vorac, using every advantage human engineers could devise. The ship was fast and maneuverable compared to the massive Vorac vessels. Its weapons were designed to exploit the weaknesses Dr. Oh Yeon had discovered. Most importantly, it carried a crew trained specifically for combat against alien technology, but the real weapon was the unity that had emerged among humanity. Every news report about Jin'e's condition and Kodan's death strengthened the resolve of billions of people. Children across all human worlds drew pictures of spaceships fighting crystal aliens and sent them to the soldiers preparing for war. The Vorac had observed human society for years before making contact. They knew about human wars and conflicts and expected humanity to fracture under pressure, as most species did. They could not comprehend a reaction based on protective instinct, rather than logical calculation. Research Prime Vextai sent regular reports to the Vorac High Command from his position at New Geneva Colony, where he remained protected by the facility's energy shields. The human response is more organized than anticipated, he reported, but their technology remains inferior. They pose no significant threat to our operations. The High Command agreed with his assessment. The Vorac had conquered dozens of civilizations, and none had ever successfully resisted their neural harvesting operations. They sent reinforcements to the human sector, but not in large numbers. The first major engagement occurred near the Jupiter mining station 6 months after the New Geneva incident. 3 Vorac ships approached the station intending to harvest the children of mining families. They were met by a human fleet led by Captain Lim Ho in the Incheon. The battle lasted 4 hours and ended with all 3 Vorac vessels destroyed. The aliens fought with the same tactics that had served them against other species, but humans proved unpredictable. Instead of trying to preserve their own ships, the human crews took extreme risks to protect the mining station. Captain Lim Ho rammed his ship into a Vorac vessel when its weapon systems failed. The collision destroyed both ships but saved 300 children at the mining station. Before he died, Lim Ho transmitted a message to the rest of the fleet. Remember why we fight. Every one of these monsters we kill is one less threat to our kids. The victory at Jupiter Station showed that Vorac ships could be destroyed, but the cost was terrible. Humanity lost 2 ships and over 300 crew members, including Captain Lim Ho. However, the psychological impact was enormous. For the first time, humans had proven they could defeat the aliens in battle. Admiral Park Sung used the victory to accelerate production of the new weapon systems. Within a year, the human fleet had grown from a few dozen ships to over 200 vessels, designed specifically for anti-Vorac warfare. The aliens began to take the human threat more seriously. Vorac reinforcements arrived in the Sol system and established a forward base in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. They began raids on human colonies, seeking to capture more children for their neural harvesting operations. Each raid strengthened human resolve. Parents who had never held weapons trained with military instructors. Scientists worked around the clock developing better defenses and more effective weapons. Even children contributed by helping design camouflage patterns and early warning. Systems Captain Lee Jun received command of the new battleship Seoul built, using the lessons learned from the Jupiter Station battle. His ship was faster and more heavily armed than the Incheon, and carried the latest harmonic weapons developed by Dr. Oh Yeon's team. Captain, our mission is to eliminate the Vorac forward base. Admiral Park Sung briefed him. Intelligence suggests they are using it to process captured children. Lee Jun studied the tactical display showing the enemy position. The base was heavily defended by 6 Vorac ships and orbital weapon platforms. A direct assault would be costly, but Lee Jun had learned something important about fighting the aliens. They expect us to attack logically, he told his crew. But we are not fighting for logic. We are fighting for our children, and that makes us dangerous in ways they cannot calculate. The assault on the Vorac base began with a feint attack from one direction, while the main human force approached from another angle. The aliens responded exactly as Lee Jun predicted, by concentrating their defenses against the apparent main threat Seoul, and 4 other ships struck the base from its blind side, using the new harmonic weapons to devastating effect. The Vorac orbital platforms shattered like glass, and their ships lost power as the resonance frequencies disrupted their crystalline technology. But the most important discovery came when human Marines boarded the base. They found hundreds of children from different species, all connected to neural harvesting equipment. Most were already dead, but some could still be saved. Among the survivors was a young girl from a species the humans had never encountered before. She had been captured from her homeworld and brought to the base for processing. Through primitive communication, she made the humans understand that the Vorac had destroyed her entire civilization to harvest the neural patterns of their young. We are not the first species they have done this to, Dr. Parkana reported after examining the rescued children, and we will not be the last unless we stop them completely. The evidence found at the base revealed the true scope of Vorac operations. They had been harvesting neural material from young, intelligent beings for thousands of years across dozens of star systems. Entire civilizations had been reduced to breeding populations kept alive, only to produce children for the aliens to harvest. The discovery changed the nature of the war. This was no longer just about protecting humanity. It was about stopping a threat to all intelligent life in the galaxy. Admiral Park Sung called a meeting of all human military commanders to discuss the new intelligence. We have learned that the Vorac have exterminated entire species for their neural harvesting operations, she announced. If we do not stop them here and now, they will continue until every thinking being in the galaxy is either dead or enslaved. The room was silent as the implications sank in. Humanity was not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the future of all intelligent life. Admiral, what are our options? Asked Colonel Bei Su, who had been promoted after her actions at New Geneva. We attack their homeworld and destroy their ability to continue these operations permanently. It was an audacious plan that would require every ship and weapon humanity could produce. The Vorac homeworld was defended by hundreds of ships and orbital fortresses. No single species had ever successfully attacked it, but humans had advantages the aliens could not understand. They fought not for territory or resources, but to protect the one thing that mattered more than their own lives. Parents across human space volunteered for suicide missions if it would help destroy the Vorac threat. The fleet that assembled for Operation Homecoming was the largest military force humanity had ever created. Over 500 ships carried weapons designed specifically to exploit Vorac weaknesses. More importantly, they carried crews who understood exactly what they were fighting for. 8 years had passed since the first human ships arrived at the Vorac homeworld, and the galaxy was forever changed. What had begun as a desperate rescue mission to save 5 children from New Geneva colony had become the largest military campaign in known galactic history. President Najun stood in the memorial hall on Earth, looking at the wall of names that honored those who had died in the war against the Vorac. Kodan's name was carved in stone near the top, along with Captain Lim Ho, Admiral Park Sung, and thousands of others who had given their lives to protect the children of all species. The war had not ended quickly or easily. The Vorac homeworld was defended by over 800 ships and orbital fortresses that had withstood attacks from dozens of other civilizations over the millennia, but the Vorac had made a fundamental error in their assessment of human capabilities. They understood human technology and tactics, but they had no comprehension of what humans would sacrifice to protect their young. When the first wave of human ships was destroyed attacking the orbital defenses, the second wave continued the assault using the wreckage of their comrades as shields and weapons. General Seo Min had commanded the ground assault on the Vorac homeworld after the orbital battle finally broke their defenses. Her forces found massive facilities containing thousands of children from dozens of different species, all connected to neural harvesting equipment that kept their minds alive while slowly extracting their creativity and adaptability. What we found there changed everything, she told President Na Jun during the post-war briefing. Entire civilizations had been reduced to breeding programs designed to produce children for the Vorac to harvest. Some species had been enslaved for hundreds of years. The liberation of the Vorac processing facilities revealed the true scope of their crimes against intelligent life. They had harvested neural material from over 40 different species completely, destroying at least 12 civilizations in the process. But the most important discovery was that the Vorac reproductive cycle depended on the neural material they stole from other species. Without a constant supply of harvested intelligence, they could not create new generations of their own kind. They are not just predators, Dr. Park Hana had reported after studying captured Vorac biology. They are parasites completely dependent on the suffering of others for their own survival. The systematic destruction of Vorac civilization took 3 more years after the fall of their homeworld. Human fleets working with liberated alien species hunted down every Vorac ship and facility across dozens of star systems. There could be no negotiation or mercy for beings who viewed children as raw materials. Captain Li Jun, now an old man, with gray hair and tired eyes, commanded the final assault on the last Vorac stronghold. The aging soul had been refitted multiple times during the Long War, but she still carried the names of Jin Ai and Ko Dan painted on her hull. Target their power systems, he ordered as his ship approached the crystalline fortress. No survivors. This time, the last Vorac leaders had finally understood the magnitude of their mistake. In their final communication to the human fleet, they offered complete surrender and all their remaining technology in exchange for mercy. Admiral Lee Jun, we acknowledge our errors in judgment regarding your species. The message began, we offer full reparations and technological exchange for peaceful coexistence. Lee Jun listened to their plea with the same expression he had worn the day he found Ko Dan dying in Dr. Park Hana's arms. You had your chance for peaceful coexistence, he replied. You chose to torture children instead. The final Vorac stronghold was destroyed with all hands aboard. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia was extinct, but the war's end brought new challenges. Dozens of liberated species needed help rebuilding their civilizations after generations of enslavement. Many had forgotten their own cultures and technologies after years of existing only to produce children for Vorac. Harvest Jin Ai, now 24 years old, had become a symbol of survival and recovery for all the war's victims. The neural damage from her childhood trauma had never fully healed, but she had learned to live with the gaps in her memory and the occasional confusion that clouded her thoughts. She stood before the newly formed Galactic Council as humanity's representative for child protection services. The hall was filled with beings from 40 different species, all united by their shared experience of Vorac brutality. We are here because someone decided that our children were resources to be harvested rather than people to be protected, she said clearly, despite the difficulty speaking sometimes caused her. We are here to make sure that never happens again to anyone anywhere. The Galactic Child Protection Treaty was signed by every known intelligent species. It established absolute protections for the young of all races and created enforcement mechanisms to prevent future atrocities. The treaty was also known as the Kodan Accords in honor of the 6-year-old boy whose death had started humanity's war against the Vorac. President Na Jun had been elected largely because of her role in establishing the post-war galactic order. Under her leadership, humanity had emerged as the primary military power in their region of space, but had used that power to protect rather than conquer. We learned something about ourselves during the war, she said in her inaugural address. We learned that there is no sacrifice too great when it comes to protecting children. That lesson must never be forgotten. The memorial service for the war's victims was held on the anniversary of Kodan's death. His parents, now elderly, had become advocates for interspecies cooperation and child welfare. They had established schools on dozens of worlds where children from different species could learn together in safety. Jin'ei attended the service as she did every year. She still had nightmares about her time in the Vorac facility, and sometimes forgot important details about her life before the neural harvesting began. But she had found purpose in helping other survivors heal from their trauma. Captain Lee Jun retired after the war but remained active in galactic affairs as an advisor on military strategy. He had never married or had children of his own, but had dedicated his life to ensuring that all children could grow up safely. The Vorac thought that emotions made us weak, he said during his speech at the memorial service. They never understood that love makes us stronger than any technology or weapon. The phrase that had emerged from humanity's war against the Vorac had become known throughout the galaxy. Traders and diplomats from hundreds of species would warn each other with the simple words that carried the weight of absolute enforcement. Don't touch human kids. It was not just a warning about humanity's protective instincts. It had become a universal principle that applied to the children of all species everywhere. The humans had proven that there were some lines that could never be crossed without triggering total war. Dr. Xin Wu, now in his 70s, had spent the post-war years developing rehabilitation programs for the children who had survived Vorac facilities. Many had been damaged beyond complete recovery, but all had been given the chance to live normal lives despite their trauma. The children who suffered at Vorac hands became the foundation for galactic peace, he wrote in his final report. Their sacrifice was not in vain if it ensures that no other child anywhere will face the same fate. The Vorac home system had been declared a memorial preserve where the ruins of their civilization served as a reminder of what happened to those who preyed on the innocent. The crystalline structures that had once housed neural harvesting equipment were now monuments to the children who had died there. Jin'ei visited the memorial preserve once each year, traveling there in a ship crewed by survivors from multiple species. The journey was difficult for her because of the memories it triggered, but she felt obligated to honor those who had not survived. Standing in the ruins of the facility where she had been tortured, She placed flowers at the monument bearing Ko Dan's name and the names of thousands of other young victims. "We remember," she said quietly, "and we make sure it never happens again." The galaxy was safer now because humanity had learned that some fights were worth any cost. Children from hundreds of different species grew up knowing that they were protected not just by their own people, but by an entire galactic community that had pledged to defend them. The war against the Vorac had ended, but its lessons lived on. In schools across human space, children learned about the importance of protecting the innocent and standing up to those who would harm the defenseless. On New Geneva Colony, where the nightmare had begun, a new generation of children played in parks, built where the Vorac research facility had once stood. They grew up hearing stories about Jin'e's courage and Ko Dan's sacrifice, but they lived in a galaxy where such horrors could never happen again. The memorial to the war's victims contained one final inscription that summarized everything humanity had learned from their first contact with alien life. They discovered the hard way that some things are more important than survival, and some fights are more important than victory. They learned that a species willing to die for their children will always defeat those who see children as resources. This is our promise to every child in the galaxy. You are protected and you are safe, and anyone who would harm you will answer to all of us. Captain Li Jun visited the Memorial O,